have author Ben Boswell stopping by the set with a book called Confronting Whiteness. Ben, what an amazing book, but what a bold move with a disruptive country division going on right now. So tell me what inspired this.
Honestly, it came from my own story, from my own journey. I've been doing work on anti-racism for a long time, many years, and I thought I was like all the way there. I thought I'd done everything I needed to do, super woke, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And came to a point where I realized that the work that I was doing was just not going anywhere. And in fact, the work that I was doing with people in congregations particularly was just regressing. People were making progress. But let's just
say you're also a man of God.
Yeah, I'm a pastor.
You're a pastor and a doctor. So I want to tell our audience that you minister at church. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm doing a lot of this work in churches, right. And I thought I'm trying to do everything you possibly can. We went on pilgrimages through the Deep South with a partner Black church. We did an entire year-long study of race. We brought in speakers, and you'd think that we were making progress, but actually what I saw was regression. I kept saying, what's wrong? What's happening? Am I something I'm doing wrong? And I realized that I was asking my congregation to go to a place that I had not gone yet. And so I had kind of an existential crisis where I realized, what is it about me? What have I not done that I'm asking my congregation to do that I haven't done for myself? And you can't lead people down a road that you haven't done the work on yourself. And what I realized was I had never really looked at my own racial identity. I've always focused on race as something I was doing for somebody else, like a nice thing I was doing for people in the Black community. And it becomes sort of paternalistic when you think about it like that. And instead of focusing on my own racial identity as a person who is racialized as white and trying to understand, what does it mean to be a white person? What does it mean to be racialized as white in America? Is there a history there that I don't understand, that I don't know? Turns out there's a huge history that I didn't understand, that I had never learned about. And so I went on a long spiritual, intellectual journey to try to figure this out. And along the way, there were a lot of bumps in the road. I really went looking to try to redeem whiteness, to redeem my own racial identity.
And what did you discover? What did you find? Like, what did you find within yourself that you could relate to other people and make them understand?
What I found is that, as one of the scholars that I reference in my book, James Baldwin, says that white people are trapped in a history they don't understand. And until they understand it, they can't be released from it, he says. So we're sort of trapped in this history. And what I was taught in school was not the history of white people in America and whiteness and where it came from. I thought that whiteness was a biology or an ethnicity, or something that was like a naturally occurring thing. But it wasn't at all. It was an invention. People made this idea up. It's a lie that we told ourselves to justify certain things in our society, and it's a lie that's gone on for so long that we become really invested in it. So when you even bring up the word white to white people, they right away they're already on the defensive because we don't investigate it. It goes unmarked, it goes unnoticed. We talk about Black people, we talk about every other different race, but you talk about white people, everybody gets really like, what do you mean by that? So I wanted to figure out, well, where did the story come from? Where did this invention begin? How did it unfold? Why was it created, and what was it created to do? Right. And how are we formed in it over the course of our lives and over the course of American history? And there's so much there that I didn't know. Only once I had discovered that was I able to say, okay, now I know the path and the journey that I need to invite other people who've been racialized as white to walk with me.
Right. So it's going to have to be the clip version because that is a great story. So, and we're getting ready to show a little clip. But what you're saying is no matter how far we think we have gotten with developing whites and Blacks and Indians and Hispanics and that we're all this blended country or other countries, we're not there yet. But at first, we have to discover what it is to be whiteness, correct?
Yeah. For people who've been racialized that way, we have to go do that work. And part of it is recognizing that no matter how much progress we've made, we're not in a post-racial society.
Right.
And we want to believe that. We want to kind of live in a colorblind ideology, but we're not post-racial. Race still impacts the way people's lives unfold. And it does so for us as people who are racialized as whites. We have to figure that out.
Right. We're going to watch a clip.
Okay.
And then we'll be right back after you watch this amazing clip.
American slavery has been whitewashed in our educational system because white people do not want to face the truth or take responsibility for our horrific immoral history. As James Baldwin said, White people are trapped in a history that they don't understand, and until they understand it, they cannot be released from it. Instead of facing our history, white people prefer to live in denial. So we whitewash the history of slavery. We trumpet lost cause ideology. And we refuse to tell the truth about slavery or use words like systemic racism and white supremacy in our state educational curriculum. Because to do so would be to act responsibly and to take responsibility for this brutal history and the vestiges of this system that continue to oppress people today. And as white people, we will do anything we can to avoid taking responsibility for racial injustice. And this embarrassing pathology of white denial and white abdication must stop immediately. It's important to set the historical record straight because the legacy of slavery continues to live on today in the form of systemic racism, white supremacy, police brutality, and mass incarceration. Over the course of American history, slavery was not officially abolished with the 13th Amendment. The 13th Amendment allowed for slavery if someone was a convicted criminal. Therefore, white supremacists simply mutated the system of plantation slavery into slavery by another name. Plantation slavery became black codes and Jim Crow segregation, lynching and redlining, the war on crime, restrictive zoning, block busting, and the war on drugs, all of which led to the mass incarceration of black people, what Michelle Alexander calls the new Jim Crow. Now, today, neighborhoods, schools, and churches remain segregated, and there are more black people in prison than there were enslaved before the Civil War.
And now I'm back with author Ben Boswell. That was a great clip. So we were talking about the division and whiteness and what whiteness really means. So as we went to the break, you were starting on what it really meant and you were on your journey. So tell us, in 2 or 3 sentences, what you mean by whiteness.
The way I break down whiteness is that whiteness is a lie that we created to take things from other people.
Okay, so that's the basic truth. That's what you're saying. That's
we've got to come to grips with that.
So how do we heal? Because there's so much division out there, and sometimes, people don't trust other races. Instead of what we really want is everyone, we're colorblind. We don't see color of any magnitude, but we do. We do. Some people, there are still a lot of racists out there. There are still forms of people. Ku Klux Klan still exists in certain cities. So how do we get past that? What is your message? Because you teach these messages and you go around the congregations and you heal people and you heal the things that break people apart. How do you bring that back, and how do we make it better as a society?
We're not white, we're human.
Right.
Whiteness is a lie, and we need help. We can't do it alone. We have to be in small groups of people who are also racialized as white, surrounded by spiritual practices like prayer, and walk a journey together, and that's the only way we're going to get there.
I love that. Sometimes the things that we do in life are laid on our heart from God.
Right.
And was this message just given to you that you wanted to make a difference? Because that's often what happens. God will lay a message on you and say, brother, this is what I want you to do. I want you to change this. Was this your story?
It's partly that for me, but it's also because my daughter is adopted and she's black. And so she's 12 now, but when I adopted her, I didn't realize what I was doing. And now I took the responsibility of being a father of a black daughter in America at this moment really seriously. And I want to build a world where 50 years from now, the world is completely different in the way that it treats black women.
Right.
And so my goal is to build the future for her.
And so that's amazing, because I have some other friends that had these 2 interracial kids that their parents were drug addicts, and they were in foster care most of the time. And they adopted these 2 boys, and they are going to Juilliard, and one's in LA being a ballet dancer. And they've had a world open up to them that they would have been left behind. And that's what you're doing. You're making a difference. How can other people make a difference and change, and then not see what's going on with color? And because it's hard when you have white family that adopted a child of color.
Right.
People don't understand it, especially when they're children, right?
Well, she taught me, I think, a lot more than I've taught her. I mean, she's helped me every year of her entire educational path. She's been racially targeted. in white dominant schools that she's been in, coming home crushed from the experience of being treated differently because of her race. And I'll never have that happen to me. And so I see secondhand, never firsthand, and I'm getting emotional thinking about this.
Right.
I'll never feel it firsthand like she does, but seeing it secondhand helps me realize if my daughter at 6 and 8 and 10 and 12 can experience that, then that means all white children can learn about the history of racism in America.
Absolutely.
No matter what anybody says.
Now that's the testimony, because you have lived that. That's part of your testimony. I love it. You're this book author that, wanted to have this journey for himself, but the testimony really is that you are living it.
I'm trying.
And that you're making a difference through your book, through adopting your daughter and making the change. Small little changes can impact a big world.
Yeah, well, we've had about 400 people go through the course at this point, and one of the things I love to say is that after they come through, it's trying to figure out what it means to be an anti-racist presence in your sphere of power and influence. Don't try to change the whole world and convert every Ku Klux Klan member or whatever. Your job is to just show up where you are and be anti-racist in your neighborhood, in your church, in your school.
And show love to everyone.
That's right.
Accepting love, like not conditional, unconditional love for every race, for every man, for every woman.
Right.
And that's what we're really here to do.
Absolutely. We're all human beings. It doesn't matter how we've been racialized. At the
Absolutely.
core, we're all human, and that means we can love each other and respect each other.
Well, you were amazing. Thanks for stopping by the
Thank
set
you.
tonight. It's such an honor to have such
It's my honor to be with you.
Such a world famous author. So, and you're doing great things and making a difference in the world and impacting others. And I'm so thrilled to have you tonight.
Thank you. It's my
Thank
honor.
you.
Appreciate
Aw,
it.
Thank you. So, doing great things, Ben Boswell, Confronting Whiteness. You should read it, we should be it, and we all should work together to be the change.